Welcome everybody to another episode of Learn Biz, the podcast on all things small business. I'm Ethan Migliore. I actually should, it's probably rude for me to introduce myself. I'm here with Ryan Murray.
And why is it rude for you to introduce yourself?
Because you should always reference yourself second. Isn't that what they teach you in English? All right. Forget all of that.
Okay, hey, we're here.
Ryan Murray, Ethan Migliore.
We'll do it at the same time on 3.
Put that in our outtakes.
Continue.
This is why you never let me do introductions.
There are several reasons why I refrain from you doing introductions.
But I love it when you do. So today we wanted to talk about a video article. Is that the right term? YouTube art. I don't know.
Vlog.
A vlog.
Yeah.
So there's a
YouTube video.
There's a YouTuber out there by the name of, and I'm not gonna.
It's Ali Abdaal.
Yeah. Now
I don't know if I said his last name correctly. So I'm sorry, Ali.
Last name is Abdall.
Abdaal.
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 I bet it was Abdaal.
Okay.
He puts out some pretty good material, but he put out one recently that caught my attention on time management.
Yeah.
Because we have lots of conversations about this one, and I've, over the years, when I saw it, I instantly thought about some of our relationship and crazy stuff we've done over the years.
We waste time? Is that what you're getting at?
But when we get into leadership and management trainings, that's one thing that managers always ask is, how do we do better at time management, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a loaded question that a lot of times I always look for little tidbits and nuggets to give. And he had a couple good ones that I thought, hey, this is worth just, a short podcast to share and reference people back to them. And we'll put a link in the description.
If you want to check out that video.
You can do that one. But I really like that, he starts off at the very beginning and he just kind of says, hey, look, these are the things that I have done, right? Even though you need to modify them for you.
And that's one thing that I really like about Ali's content is that he's not trying to find the silver bullet.
Yeah, I like that principle that all things are conditional. And we have a podcast that we did on that things just depend on so many different scenarios, and you need to understand that there's not these absolute things that work every time.
Correct.
So he is amazing that he references that, because I don't see very many people do that.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that, so this is where I'm going to get off on. This is a little bit of my own take. Time management, we automatically assume that we're all bad at it. And I think that the better way to look at it is that we can always optimize it, but
yes,
it doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad at it. And the funny thing is, so I was watching another piece that he had. It's something where he said, I can save 20 plus hours a week, in one of his videos. And so I went through and caught the 7 or 8 steps that he had in that. And one of the things that he talked about is that he schedules downtime.
Yes.
And for me personally, I don't actually like scheduling downtime. This is where, it gets a little bit customizable. I don't like scheduling downtime because the problem that I have is as soon as it's scheduled, it's no longer downtime. and that's how my brain looks at it.
Never thought of it that way.
And so I want to take a break when I need to take a break. And I've been feeling like, okay, maybe I need to do more with my life. But honestly, I'm not trying to brag here, but I work full time as a department head. I also run this business on the side. I am studying French and Spanish. I work out consistently every single week, about 6 hours a week. I have 4 kids, and I make sure and catch time with my kids on a regular basis. I'm usually spending 30 minutes to an hour with my kids daily.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of giving myself a little bit of credit and saying, you know what, yeah, I don't schedule downtime, but when I get burned out, I take downtime. So, different ways to approach things. You can optimize more, but at the same token, it doesn't mean you're bad.
Well, and he's clear about that. So in his blog, basically he says, look, I'm going to share some of my theories on it. I'm going to give you some tactics and some tools to go with it. I'm not going to go into the tools because tools are so specialized that it's just really hard to say. And I don't use,
and he's a little sponsored too. And
I don't use his tools. I use other ones. So I can't really speak to the value of his tools, even though I saw why he used them.
Sure.
But the first point that he brings out, which I think was probably the most powerful piece in there, is that you can control your time.
Yeah.
You decide what you want to do. You may say, oh, I'm so busy, I can't do this. But ultimately, he says, at some point in time, you have to come and recognize that you control your time. And when you do that, then you can actually control your time.
Yeah, there was, and I forget the exact phraseology that he used, but it kind of hit me pretty impactfully when he said that there was a phrase he used to use, and I think it was, I don't have time.
Yeah, I don't have time.
And he realized that it's not that you don't have time, it's that you're not prioritizing or choosing to use that time.
Correct.
You do have time.
But that's what I thought was kind of cool, is because instead of saying, look, I don't have time, you're better off saying, you know what, that's not one of my priorities. I'm not going to allocate time for it.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is, right? Which at some point in time, my first thought was, when the neighbor says, hey, can you help me out? And you're going to say, well, I don't have time. Versus, it sounds bad. Well, hey, look, that's not a priority for me. But I like the fact that if you say I don't have time, then the problem is then everywhere else in your life, you start to feel that I don't have time and I'm overwhelmed, versus, no, that's not one of my priorities. That's not something I want to give focus to because I have these other things that mean more to me, and control it. And then at some point in time, if you say, hey, okay, look, my neighbor does need help, or whatever it might be, I'm going to pick on a neighbor because that's a little bit more of a sensitive one. And so you go, oh, how do I dance around that? It's, I can, but I've got my time to do that. Unfortunately, I've got to build it into this time. Can you work with me on that?
Yeah.
Right? And if the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, then all right, please try me again next time.
Yeah. Well, so, and this is prior to ever even coming across any of Ali's stuff. Or Ali, it'd probably be more Ali. Yeah. So prior to coming across any of his stuff, one of the ways that I would teach time management is I would ask someone, when was the last time that you flew somewhere? And did you make your flight? Like, oh yeah, I was way in advance. Yeah. Well, that's because that was the most important thing for you on that day.
Correct.
And you were able to get up early in the morning. You could plan to give yourself enough time. And so I kind of interiorly chuckle with people who they can never get to school on time, but it's the second that they want to go to a movie,
they're on time.
They're on time. I'm like, well, you got to understand internally what drives you.
That's right. Yeah. So I like that he puts that out in the beginning. The second point that he goes across is the parental principle, which is the 80-20 rule. Mm-hmm. And we use this one all the time in business because of the fact that we realize that 20% of our efforts are going to produce 80% of our results.
Yeah.
And that applies across so many things. So I like that principle, is understanding in your life that I don't always, for instance, I don't have to give 100% of my time to something. I just need to give the 20% that's going to give the 80% value, right? Because that's where I'm going to get the most bang for my buck.
So I'm torn on, can I go side tangent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm torn on this. Let's go back to my high school days.
Oh no.
So I started playing chess when I was a little kid, 6 years old, something like that. My dad is a phenomenal chess player, absolutely phenomenal chess player. And he taught me how to play chess. and I beat most of the people that I play. I'm a much better chess player than most of the people that I play. However, anytime that I came across a really good chess player, they would just wallop me. So I could beat the average person,
right,
but I couldn't beat that exceptional person. Now, this is where I'm going to tie this into the 80-20 concept. Okay. So I was able to put forth enough effort that I could beat 80% of the people.
Correct.
That's
the principle.
But there's something about mastery. And
Yes.
I'm not going to disagree. So this is where you've got to make some decisions in your life. Do you want to beat 80% of the people, or do you want to have mastery? If you look at an Olympic athlete,
great point.
They dedicate their lives. And okay, so I'm going to take a 100-meter dash sprinter. Kids in high school can do the 100 meters in 10.6 seconds. And then you've got Usain Bolt, who he's doing it in 9.6 seconds. So he shaved a second off. Does that really matter? Yeah, it does. But at the same time, no, it doesn't. Kind of depends how important that is to you. So to me, this 80-20 rule is for things that are of lesser consequence. Because what I did is I dedicated myself. My goal was to beat my dad. I had never beat my dad, and we'd played hundreds of games. And so my goal was to beat my dad. I actually read a chess book. When people say, oh, yeah, I studied chess. I'm like, no. I studied chess, and I read a chess book, and I finally beat my dad. And it was so fascinating that the lessons I learned in chess were some of the foundations that got me into business strategy. I learned more from trying to beat my dad, from getting mastery. I learned more from that than I did from a lot of my MBA courses in terms of business strategy. So there is a place for mastery. Don't always go 80-20. Sometimes you got to go deep. Everyone's a YouTube expert where I watched a YouTube video, so now I know everything. I'm like, go deep, man, on some things.
And that's what I love about the rule is that when you understand that, hey, look, if I focus on that 20% that's the most important, I'm almost always going to have 80% efficiencies. Mm-hmm. But as you clarified, and I'm glad you did, it depends on the scenario whether I need to have a higher efficiency or not. And if I do, then of course, I'm going to have to allocate more of my time and resources to get me past that 80% to get the efficiencies that I need to be. Because in manufacturing, think about it. If 80% of the cars I produced were good and 20% are lemons,
you're out of business.
You're out of business.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to keep that in perspective, but it's important that, especially when you get into employees and time management for employees, that they need to understand what is the most important things that they have to get done that day, because otherwise we're out of business. But if they can get that done, we're always going to be at that 80 to 85% efficiencies. We can always fine tune to clean things up from there.
Well, one thing that Ali pointed out, and this is in the other video, the one where he gives the 7 or 8 tips, and I'll put the reference in the description. Okay. We'll reference both videos in the description if you guys want to check them out. But he talks about what is your dream day, or what's your adventure? What is your adventure for the day? And in that, he states that grab the one thing that if you accomplished that day, you would say it was a great day. And regardless of anything else that you get to, so if I wake up and I say, you know what, today, the one thing that I want to make sure and do is I'm going to actually sit down and, understand my financial statements. And so I'm going to spend 30 minutes just making sure that I'm on top of my financial statements for my business. As long as you can get that done, you had a productive day,
right,
by just maintaining everything else. And I thought that was a really cool principle. Because we always want to, 5 a.m., get up, go to the gym, 6 a.m., make sure that I've made, a nice pancake and egg breakfast for the entire family, 7 a.m., be to work, have read Harvard Business Review article. Like, we have so many expectations that we set ourselves up for failure. And he said, no, grab one thing, call that your daily adventure. If you are successful with that, your day was a success. I'm like, I really like that.
Yeah, I would agree. I like that one as well. And then the video that I looked at that I was sharing with you, he didn't cover that. So I'm going to have to go reference the one that you've watched as well.
Well, you get to, because I'm sharing it.
I don't have a
you.
choice now.
Yeah, you don't have a choice.
The third principle that he talked about then is the Parkinson law, and that is work expands to fill the time that we allocate to it. Okay. And this one I loved because he referenced the book 4 Hour Work Week. Okay. And years ago, you and I know, because we played with this one, that after I read that one, I thought, I totally believe that principle, and that's why I formed my philosophy that I get paid to get things done, not to work hours. Right. And I remember back then of exploring with other people I worked with to say, hey, look, I want you to, you have to get everything done in 4 hours. After that, I don't care what you do, but you have to do something that's self-improvement.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever it is. And I was amazed that of those people around me that when we kind of played with this, how much more free time that they had, and actually how much more fulfilled they felt, because they just pounded out the work because they knew that they could go and do something that they really wanted to do to improve themselves, whether that was the gym, whether that was learning some new skill, whether that was taking a coding class. I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to see that, hey, does this principle hold true, that we tend to, if I have all day and I only have to do one task, do we just drag out that task? We do.
Yeah. So this is how I interpret that. I'm big into strength training. I think it's an excellent habit to get into for long-term health and for ability. So all the activities that I enjoy doing, I enjoy canyoneering, skiing, right. Everything that I enjoy doing is enhanced with strength training. And so the interesting principle about strength training is the more you do, the less you get out of it.
Right.
There's a sweet spot where if I do a really intense workout on Monday, I need to rest on Tuesday. Now, the crazy thing is, and I'm going to expand this a little bit because we always look at it in terms of days, and we're like, okay, I work out Monday, I rest Tuesday, and that's 24 hours, 24 hours. I'm like, no. If I work out, an intense workout for me is between an hour to an hour and a half. In a 48-hour period of time, I only need to be intense for an hour to an hour and a half to see significant gains and improvement. So I've taken that philosophy and I've tried to put it into other aspects. And I've said, okay, where else can I take an hour and a half within a 48-hour period of time to see huge gains and huge process? So right now I'm doing a business training, and I'm going to talk about the creative process. So I'm putting together a new business training, and I was trying to figure out how to connect with my audience the best. I would only go as long as my creative capability was there. Right. And as soon as I knew that I wasn't creative, I would stop. Even though I wasn't done, even though I had more time allocated to it, it's the same thing with strength training. Once my muscles are fatigued, they need rest. They grow on the rest period. And so I'll just close the laptop, stop working on it. And sometimes it gets a little intimidating or nerve-wracking because you've got deadlines that are approaching. But I find that being in a creative peak state, you will hit your deadlines as opposed to just, plowing through and forcing it to make something unnatural happen.
And that's one thing that he clearly brought up to support what you're saying is that whether it's mental exercises, physical exercises, etc., you have to have moments where you stop, right? For instance, you can't go hard mentally for hours and hours and hours. You can't. But you can if you do 45 minutes with a 5 to 10 minute break, right?
Right.
Let your brain relax, take a break, whatever it is, go hard at it again, mentally again. Then your brain tends to retain more. It's more productive. It's more creative. So you have to have those moments where you allow that to rest, just like you do physically.
Yeah.
We forget that the brain is in a weird way, is a muscle as well.
Sure. Yeah.
So he then brings up just a couple tactics. I'll just kind of mention the first one, which this is if you've taken any type of trainings on getting things done and efficiencies and other things like that, all of them kind of contain this in there. And it's one that he has applied in his life, that 2-minute rule, that if I have any task that comes across my desk that it's going to take 2 minutes or less to deal with, I just deal with it.
Yeah. Just get it done.
Just get it done, get it out of the way. Don't drag it out and worry about it. Just get it done.
I like the way that Chet Holmes puts that out there. If you've ever read The Ultimate Sales Machine, he's got the touch it once principle.
Yes.
And because to me, the 2-minute, I prefer the touch it once. And this is why. When I'm going through my emails and I'll see an email and I'll be like, oh, I can get to that. I touch it. And then when I come back to it, I've touched it twice. And so I at least doubled the amount of time that I'll spend on email. And you don't think about it because you're like, it's just email. But how many hours are we consumed with cleaning up our emails and our inbox? And so, he puts it into 2 minutes. I like to say touch it once. I prefer the Chet Holmes version, but the same concept.
Yeah. And then going back to that for our work week and the whole idea of batching things, finding, connecting, and so that you're batching things was another one that I thought, hey, that's a great tactic and one I use all the time as well, and how my brain works and functions. Now I get that the one thing that's interesting that he doesn't touch on, but everyone's brain works a little bit different on how they do that, and you need to recognize that piece of it, and then find the way to tailor things the way the way that you're going to do it. The last one that was big for him was that he doesn't watch much TV, and I related to that. I don't watch hardly any TV.
Yeah.
And it was interesting when he said about the only time I watch TV is when I watch TV I plan it and do it with other people. And I thought, girl, that's what I do. It's because my kids say, hey, Dad, come watch a movie with me, right?
Right.
Outside of that, I don't sit down to watch something on TV myself, because for me, there's always something else I can be doing. Mm-hmm. So I highly related to that one, even though I had never thought about, hey, when do I watch TV? And then when he said I only watch TV when I'm with other people, I thought, that's how my life is. Interesting enough. Now, he didn't condone watching TV or anything like that. He was just simply saying, look, sometimes when we start to get a little bit burned out, we tend to gravitate to the TV instead of gravitating to other things that still allow our brain to rest but are highly productive.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that push hard, rest appropriately is definitely key there. So excellent. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for spending your time with us. I hope that while you were listening to this podcast, you were also folding laundry, making the most of your time,
walking the dog, getting some exercise.
Exactly. But no, we hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did enjoy, make sure to subscribe, tell your friends about us. We would love to have you share that information. That is how we survive as a business, is by you sharing with more people to help grow this audience. So appreciate you as an audience member, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.